Hello everyone, my name is Li Juanzhu. It's my pleasure to have this lightning talk in AU this year. My talk is about troubleshooting and debugging for design automation jobs. I have an assumption that audience of this talk have experience on design automation, so I may skip the explanation or introduction of the terms or concepts in design automation through the talk. I would like to introduce myself first. I am a principal engineer working for Revit. I joined Autodesk since 2011. I have worked on Revit projects and features such as topper surface, Revit links, integrating desktop connector into Revit. And currently, I'm the owner of Revit API framework. In recent 3 years, I'm working on design automation API to connect and migrate Revit to the cloud. As we know, design automation API enables the automation capability of AutoCAD, Inventor, Revit, and 3D Max as cloud service by running add-in, plug-in, or script on cloud. This talk will focus on design automation for Revit. In most cases, the existing add-ins which work on desktop Revit can be converted into add-in which can run on design automation service. However, testing and debugging a cloud apps is new and definitely brings more challenges that may not happen on desktop. In today's presentation, I will talk a little bit about converting Revit add-ins into a for design automation apps. I will take more time to introduce and demo Design Automation Handler, which is a local debugging tool to test and debug cloud apps for design automation. And last, I will have a discussion on some common issues on design automation service and help for a better understanding on design automation. I think we talk about how to convert Revit add-in into Forge design automation apps in other presentations, workshops, or trainings in recent years. We have step-by-step instruction on how to do it on Forge doc. So basically, we need to remove all UI-related code in the add-in, implement some key functions in Design Automation Bridge. One thing I want to bring more attention here is about error handler. As we know, when an add-in runs on Revit, there is a UI to help to communicate about warnings and errors. However, on design automation service, there's no UI interaction. So we have to use another way to handle failures. Actually, we implement a default error handler, which comes with the design automation bridge by default. The default error handler suppresses warnings and resolve errors automatically by applying the default options. However, if you want something different, you may consider implementing a custom error handler. Next, I will take more time to introduce and demo design automation handler, which I don't think we have chance to introduce to public officially before. Design Automation Handler is a Revit UI add-in that allows to run and debug add-in ready for design automation for service locally with desktop Revit. Just as the same as debugging add-in for desktop Revit, you need Visual Studio and desktop Revit installed.
Okay, I will demo how to
use this local debugging tool, which is called Design Automation Handler. First, I want to speak a little about his history, why we developed this tool for customers. As we know, running Revit on cloud is new to everyone. It's tricky and hard to debug on cloud service. Some customers were struggling like, how can I know my add-in can run successfully on design automation service? Here comes this tool, which we hope can help test and diagnose add-ins problem at very early stage. This is the Git repository. Uh, his resource code can be found. You can copy the link to check it out locally. I already sync the code and open the solution in Visual Studio. This local debugging tool supports all Revit versions supported by Design Automation Service so far, which are Revit 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. In today's demo, I will use Revit 2021, so I will only care about the projects 2021 related. To make the Design Automation Handler 2021 build successfully, we need to resolve the reference DLLs first. For example, we need to update Revit API and Revit API UI DLLs to point to where Dexo Revit is installed. This is what I have on my local machine. I will also suggest to check if there's new version released in NuGet for Design Automation Bridge. If there's a new one, please install it. After this project builds successfully, we can find his DLLs and add-in are nicely copied to the location, the default location where Dexo Revit finds the add-in to load. Next, we will work on the add-in, which is supposed to run on the automation service. I have a small add-in ready. This is a DB level add-in. I just follow the instructions. Right now, I need to test it how it will work. This add-in will export the Revit file to a couple of formats like image, IFC, XPS. It will read JSON file, which will tell this add-in what formats wants to be exported. Let's build it first. And we need to copy his add-in to the location where the handler's add-in is at. But we need to update assembly path to where the DLLs exactly is at. Before debugging, let's do two more things. Update external program to be the Revit exe and also update define the working directory. Let's start. Go to the add-in tabs. Under external tools, we can find the design automation handler. Click it. It will nicely notify. Alright, if you have some input file, for example, JSON file used as the parameters in add-in, you can put it under the current working folder, which I defined it in the Visual Studio. In this round, this add-in will fail because it needs a Revit file to be opened and do the export, but we didn't provide any Revit file.
In this round, we will open a Revit file first. By the way, this open the Revit file will be or can be defined as the input file in the design automation work item. And in the current working folder, I provide a JSON file which tells the add-in. This time I only want to export the image. Let's run handler again. And the codes export the image is hitting. And we can find the results under the current working folder. Actually, we can rerun the add-in without restarting the Revit. For example, this time I also want to export IFC. We just can click add-in again, and the code to export IFC will be hit. So basically, if an add-in can be run successfully with this debugging tool, most likely it can run successfully on design automation service. However, to run a design automation job, we also need to define the app bundles, activities, and post the work item correctly. We have Forge doc to cover how to do it here.
I hope the demo helps to show the usage of Design Automation Handler. We really recommend to use it when your add-in is ready but you never use Design Automation Service or you fail to run add-in on Design Automation Service. Last, I will discuss some common issues we got from customers. Design Automation has been publicly released 1 year so far. Thanks for using the service and giving us the feedback. We could keep improving our service. I pick up 4 typical questions over the past 6 months. The first one, is it possible to increase the allowed concurrent number of jobs in FDA? I post the 4 work items, one is still pending. The answer is there's no limit to set for concurrent number of jobs. We have mechanism to try to guarantee all customers have equal chance to get the jobs processed. So in above case, the pending job is waiting for more workers on our stack to spilling up by autoscaling. Once more workers are ready, the job will be processed quickly. The second question, can I copy text files from the folders, C programs, common files, Autodesk shared materials, textures, and can I count on those files in my workflow? The text file, yes, you can copy it and use it. However, we don't encourage you to count on those files in your workflow because the materials or the permissions could change in the future, and we will not commit to maintaining those files either. Since we mentioned permission, it should be noted that the add-in cannot use the network currently or write to any files outside current working folder. You may need to consider the restrictions when coding your add-in. The third question, I found my job is running forever. It says hanging. What happens? Well, there could be different reasons causing this problem. One common reason we find out is during the add-ins running, some UI like dialogues are triggered. So on cloud, there's no way to resolve the UI. How to figure out? You may try to run the add-in index of Revit Using our local debugging tool first, you will figure out if there are some UI triggered, you have to suppress them in the add-in before running it on cloud again. The second common reason we find out is the input file is a template file. Right now, design automation opens the input file by default, which works for most cases where the inputs are Revit file. However, opening the templates will cause a hanging. We could do improvement here, but as a workaround, you can try don't provide inputs in the command line, but open the template file in your add-in by calling some Revit API. The hanging also could be caused by a bug in design automation. Please report to us and you can help us to improve our service. The fourth question is, in the past, I recall there are some limits on inputs and outputs. However, I cannot no longer find them on the documentation. Do these limits still exist? So the good news is we simplify the limits. There are no limits for max numbers of input output size and the number of inputs outputs. You can find the updated quota information on ForgeDoc. Moreover, you may notice there is a limit called the limit processing time seconds, which defines the maximum duration of processing time for a job, including the download of inputs and upload of the outputs. The default processing time limit for Revit is 3 hours. That means if you don't assign a value for this limit, a Revit job will be killed after 3 hours, and you will get a job status of failed limit processing time. This limit can be overwritten at the service level or for each work item. My talk is almost done here. I list some useful links in these slides, and you are very welcome to post questions on Stack workflow. We will respond as soon as possible as we can. Thanks for your time on watching this talk.